Let's bring in the Mzansi, Rise Mzansi Member of Parliament, Makashule Gana, for more political reaction. Good afternoon to you, Makashule, and thank you for your time. An extraordinary turn of events this afternoon. What have you made of the allegations made by the Provincial Commissioner of the SAPS in KwaZulu-Natal, Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi?
Thanks very much, Rasizwe. It's an extraordinary Sunday, as you say. The allegations that have been made by General Mkhwanazi to the minister, the senior leadership in the police and other politicians, it leaves us as Rise Mzansi with one request. The only person that can address these allegations at this present moment, address the fights that are within the South African Police Service, is the president of the country. The president of the country cannot, as soon as he touches base or he touches down in South Africa, he has to address the nation on these allegations. These are serious allegations that are directed at a member of his cabinet, that are directed at the senior leadership within the South African Police Service. And we don't believe that the police minister himself can address these particular issues. It has to be the commander-in-chief of all armed forces in South Africa that get to address these particular issues and ensure that takes the country into his confidence. But secondly, there's no doubt in my mind that there needs to be an inquiry, parliamentary inquiry, but also maybe an inquiry outside of parliament, especially when the allegations that General Mkhwanazi has made touches on members of parliament, members that it did not name, it did not give names in terms of the politicians that are involved, but it does sound to me that there might very well be members that I serve with in the police portfolio committee that somehow are involved in this. So this is much broader than just someone appearing before Parliament. It needs to be broader than Parliament at this stage, and the President must act swiftly to deal with these matters.
I must challenge you on that. On what basis do you believe that the politicians that Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi alludes to may be members who serve with you in the police portfolio committee? What's the basis for your suspicion?
So what I heard from what the minister says, it relates to issues that are within the crime intelligence that might or might not have been raised in Parliament, and it's not in the joint committee of intelligence. That's what I heard him to allude to, that these were given to members that were not in the joint committee of intelligence. So that's my thing. But be that as it may, Tulasizwe, is that when you have an allegations that certain members of parliament, whether they are in the police portfolio committee or they are just ordinary members in serving in other committees, when there's that allegation, so we have a situation where the minister, there are allegations against the minister, allegations against the senior police leadership. General Severe has responded. Allegations, it only leaves us. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The president needs to do something. Actually, there's even an allegation against the judiciary. So you've got the prosecutors, the judiciary, politicians, and people that are given classified information. So there has to be a proper speedy inquiry that we can then look at this. But the sooner we get the names of those that are involved in Parliament, so that even when there's a parliamentary inquiry, we can know who are the people to then exclude from that parliamentary inquiry. Because the worst thing that you can do is to have a parliamentary inquiry that includes the very same members that are being accused of colluding with criminals on some of these matters.
Yeah, it's all sounding very complex and complicated, Makashule. Let me ask you about timing of any action and decision to be made. How important is that timing, that the decision should be made as soon as possible? And what would be the consequences of leaving these allegations to linger without actually being properly investigated?
So as soon as possible. Now we live in an era of technology. The president cannot keep quiet. Actually, I will expect that the president, within the next 24 hours, need to have responded to these matters. And as soon as he touches down in South Africa, he must be able to address these matters. I do know that we will be debating the president's a budget vote in the coming, not this coming week, but the following week. And central to that statement that you'll be making in Parliament must be around these issues relating to the South African police, because all these fights, and I said this on Friday during the police budget vote debate, that all these fights that we see in the police, that we see in crime intelligence, they are not about keeping South Africans safe. They're about people lining their own pockets. That's the scariest thing, that all these fights are not about keeping South Africans safe, but people are fighting so that they can have access to resources that should be used to protect South Africans.
Is it your sense that, in a way, we are either regressing in trying to clean up these units like crime intelligence, given the background of where we came from, all the work that was done in the last few years, including the investigations by the State Capture Commission of Inquiry and various other lines of inquiry, suspensions, as well as, people like Richard Mzansi ending up going to prison, for example. Do we find ourselves back to square one, in a way, in terms of what we're now dealing with? It almost feels quite deja vu, for me at least.
It does. But what we must never give up on continuing to clean up crime intelligence and other units within the police. It does feel like the cleanup that was done was not proper, because if it was a full cleanup, we wouldn't be confronted with the issues that we are faced with today at this particular moment, with the allegations that we have. But the infighting within the police, they are not assisting anyone. The only people who are rejoicing at this moment are the criminals. Those are the only people that at this moment are rejoicing, because they know that the police are not focused on them. The police are focused on each other. They are focused on possibly lining their own pockets. They are working with criminals. So the only people that today they are going to be popping champagnes and drinking and dancing are the criminals. South Africans are left to fend for themselves. That's the unfortunate situation that we find ourselves in. But we must never, ever give up on our efforts to build the police service that will be focused on protecting the South Africans and the properties that belong to South Africans.
Makashule, before we part ways, please say a bit more about the second element that I understood you to be suggesting of any line of inquiry. Sure, I get what you're saying about a parliamentary inquiry, and that you've made quite clear. But you then made a point that I'd like you to sort of highlight a bit more, that says, given that the allegations are said to include politicians, law enforcement in the form of SAPS, Metro Police and Correctional Services, prosecutors, members of the judiciary, and those are said to be controlled by drug cartels as well as people in business. Given that, what's the second element that you would hope to see of this line of inquiry?
So there needs to be a broader inquiry looking at how both the judiciary and basically the law enforcement agencies have themselves found they've been found to be in cahoots with the criminal networks, and that's something that within the powers that the president has. Remember, the president does not have the powers to institute a parliamentary inquiry. He does not have those powers. The powers that he has, because he's not a member of parliament, only the speaker has got those powers. So there has to be that inquiry that the president has to institute so that we get to the bottom of this. And I know sometimes it might feel like we get inquiry fatigued. But the worst thing that we can do when these kind of allegations are labeled and are given to the public is for the president to sit back and do nothing. he must use everything within the constitution that allows him to act on these allegations to act. What South Africans want to see from their president is that he's not going to sit back, he's not going to sit and allow the rot in the police to continue.
Yeah, all right, thank you for that. That's Makashule Gana, a member of parliament of Rise Mzansi, weighing in on what we've been hearing this afternoon. And I can tell you now, the president is traveling, of course, to Brazil as part of that BRICS summit that is taking place.